Okay, guys, we have a very special guest. I'm sitting here with Gabriel Groisman, the former mayor of Belle Harbor for 6 years, a business leader, a legal expert, has served for over 15 years doing commercial and intellectual property litigation. He's a very strong advocate against antisemitism, and we are here today to discuss business, topics on Judaism, and standing up for what you believe in. Nothing is off the record. He told me as soon as he came in here. I'm super excited. Gabriel, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Please, it's my pleasure. All right, so I have a lot of questions. So you went to U of M, and you wanted to, did you get into law right away, or what was your calling? What did you want to get into when you?
Yeah, no, not even close. So first I want to be clear, because I've got teenagers that they don't know U of M means University of Michigan. And no, there are no other U of M's. That's it. U of M is University of Michigan.
Of course.
I grew up here in Miami, went to University of Michigan. I actually studied philosophy. So I had much longer hair than I have now, and all I wanted to do was play music. And I had a whole life plan, which was just to be a musician. So that was my plan when I was in college.
What instrument?
I sing and play guitar and piano.
Okay.
I hope you have instruments in here. We can start rocking out.
I want to see it.
And I'm actually playing tonight at a bar in Miami.
Are you really?
Yes.
Good for you.
But that's all I wanted to do at the time. And then after that, moved to New York to play some music. I actually applied to law school. This is a true story, because my mom said, when I told my parents I was just going to be a musician, my mom called me and said, can you at least apply to law school and get in? And then you could be a homeless musician, at least with a admission to a law school.
Yeah.
So I did that for a year. I was not homeless. I was able to support myself singing and bartending and waiting tables like you do when you do that life. And then I got injured playing basketball in a park in New York City.
No.
Came back, started dating this girl who I decided I wanted to marry, went to law school, got married, and that was the rest is history.
So you met your wife in New York?
No, I met my wife back here in Miami. Actually, I've known her my whole life.
Oh,
but when I came back at that time, my mom was sick. I came back to visit her. Then I got injured in my shoulder, came back to get surgery, and my wife had just turned kind of age that she got my interest. and
how old is you're?
We were
26 at the time.
No, I got my first kid at 26. We got married. I was 23 and she was 19.
Okay.
Just crazy.
Well, that's not that bad. You're 23, 19. I mean, I feel like once you're 30, there's a guy at the gym, I love him to death, but he's 19, 20 years old. I'm like, you're 40. I don't know if that's politically correct.
Oh, you're saying together? Yeah, that's gross.
Yeah. I'm like, all right.
To be honest.
But so how did you go from the transition of you're an attorney, you're doing law, and then you go, I want to be the mayor of Belle Harbor? And you've done some insane things. You were the first mayor ever to create this ordinance that you would prohibit any businesses from doing work with anybody who boycotted Israel. Which
I'll explain it a little bit different. So to answer your question, so I was litigating at that point for 10 years, and some stuff started happening in my city that wasn't really big or important, but enough to drive me to go to the city hall to a council meeting
in Belle Harbor. You've always been there.
Yeah, and I just said to myself, I can't believe these are the people deciding for me. And I'm a very type A personality. I don't like complaining about things, I like doing things. So I got there, you have your 3 minutes to speak, and I said, I don't like this dynamic at all. I'm just gonna run and get on that city council so I could decide myself. So I did that. It's not full-time. In South Florida, almost all the mayors and city council members, it's part-time.
Okay.
Very few exceptions. On one hand, you can count the exceptions.
Yeah.
Even City of Miami mayors, part-time job, Miami Beach. The ones that aren't, are the county, Miami-Dade County mayor's full-time, Hialeah's full-time. There's a few exceptions. So 2 years I was on the council, then I ran for mayor. You get elected there by the council, was there for 6 years. And it was quite an experience. Just to correct you, but just because it's important, not because I want to correct you, but I was the first in the country to pass. It was called an anti-BDS ordinance, which is now all over the country in hundreds of cities and about 37 states. It prohibits businesses. You can boycott whoever you want, but if you're going to boycott any authorized trading partner of the U.S., including Israel, this was an answer to the BDS movement, the boycott, divest, sanction movement. You cannot do business with the city. The city won't do business with you. Because the city, that's the law that was passed, and that's all over the country. It's been challenged, it's been held up by many, many courts, and that was sort of the beginning of a whole other phase of my life.
So that was incredible. You started that. You were at the forefront of that, and then was it widely adopted throughout where was next?
Yeah, so after I passed that law, which was probably 9 years ago,
okay.
the press kind of went crazy. Like, why is this small city in South Florida doing this? And more importantly, our enemies went crazy. So the boycott, divest, sanctions movement really were going crazy about it. They wrote about it in their yearly pamphlet or newsletter, how there was this movement from cities that they have to deal with. And I always say, judge me by my enemies, right? So these guys were coming after me. I was very, very happy about that. And
I like that you just said that. They were coming after me. I really actually like that. Yeah, I feel like that's what fuels you. That's what fuels like our personality. If somebody says like, yeah, you can do it, that's fine. I don't really listen to it. But someone's like, you can't do that. That's never going to happen. That's what kind of fuels me.
For me, it's more if I'm pissing off the right people. So, you know, I am a people pleaser, right? I like doing things that are good for the community, that's standing up for my people. But I also know what evil is and what wrong is, and people that are on the wrong side of the coin. And if those people are mad at what I'm doing, I don't even care what they're saying. If they're mad, that means I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah, exactly. That means you're making them literally feel emotionally like, all right, I got to fight, or I can't do anything about this. This guy's standing up. He's so strong on his stance that I don't even know what to do. Now I actually have to try.
Yeah.
So that got wildly adopted, and then while you were mayor, like you speak very like you were very strong on your stance. Did you ever feel like, was it walking around with, I don't know if you had security or not, no security, was it ever like nerve-wracking to possibly run into some heckler or some guy or some group or people has that ever happened to you where you've been like harassed walking around by people like that?
Yeah, so first of all, this is the U.S. and it's Florida within the U.S., so I provide my own security. But you know, the reality is, no, I don't walk around with any sort of fear, and not because I'm some sort of tough guy, but I think that if you allow yourself to be afraid of those people who are harassing and heckling you and trying to intimidate you, then you lost already, right? So I don't think we really have room, especially when we're talking about issues related to the Jewish community. We don't have space to be weak. We don't have space to be intimidated. We have to do the right things. And the truth is, over the years, I've gotten tons of threats and death threats and letters and intimidation, and I don't care. Right?
Unfazed.
I don't care. I mean, am I careful? Yes, I'm careful. I'm not an idiot. I've got a family to take care of. But over the years, you just sort of get used to it, and you realize the people who bark don't bite, and those people are really just they're just trying to intimidate you, and you just got to stand up.
Yeah, they're trying to, all bark, no bite.
Yeah.
100%. So I feel like today the world is completely just unhinged, and you have people like, I like Elon, and then he's got the Twitter that you have there's no rails. You can say whatever you want, but then you have people like Kanye, who should not have a Twitter at all. He's absolutely off the hinges, makes no sense of what he's saying. And then you have UFC fighters commenting. I'm sure you've seen, I don't even need to say it, what they've spoken about. And then like the one incident I wanted to bring up to you too, his daughter is like the only Jewish person in their school. And the teacher was like reading something from like, I don't know, President Nixon. And she's like, do you mind if I say the K word? And she's like, what? Like, why would you, how is that even acceptable that a teacher can even hint or say that to, I think she's 12, what is she, 10 or 12 years old? And she's the only Jewish person in class. I just don't get, because since I moved here, it was a little bit of a culture shock. There's not a lot of Jewish people where I grew up in Michigan. I was raised Catholic, but being around a lot of them are friends, clients, my girlfriend, I feel like the religion and like the stance, the core values are mostly the same. So I just don't get why there's like this attack against Jews right now, and like if you could say comment on that, and then like what's the message to the youth? Because I know your audience is a little bit older and a lot of political people, but I have like a younger, I'd say like 20 to 25-year-old audience around the country, some even internationally. I guess like what's your message to that?
Yeah, so two things. So first, before talking about the anti-Semites and the haters, you know, there is a lot of alignment between different communities that you kind of alluded to.
Yeah.
South Florida, I've spoken about this a lot, but in South Florida, it's a perfect example of it, because you have the Catholics, a mostly Cuban Catholic community, and the Jewish community, and the Black community here, and the Latin community, which has a lot of overlap within the Jewish community. My family is from Argentina, right? So there's those communities, we're all in lockstep. I mean, I got a call this week from Mayor Francis Suarez from Miami, who's a friend, and said, hey, there's graffiti, some anti-Israel, anti-Semitic graffiti on one of our buildings. Let's go paint it over. And he's a friend. And like, he's obviously not Jewish. Catholic, raised Catholic, religious, went to Catholic schools, you know, in the heart of the Cuban community. His father was mayor. I mean, we're not talking about just some guy like this. He's a leader in their community. It turned out, by the way, it was a private building. And when he called them and said, "Can I get permission to get up on the roof with a friend? We're going to paint it over." He says, "I already saw it. I already sent the painters. It'll be off in 20 minutes. I can't believe someone did that on my building." So, but it's just illustrative. It shows how those communities are together. Same with like evangelicals and the Jewish community all over the country. I work a lot with a group called Christians United for Israel, KUFI, based out of San Antonio, but they're one of the largest pro-Israel Christian groups in the country. It's not just about Israel, it's about protecting traditional values, like and having a family, and just kind of, there's so much that we align on. To the people that are against, you mentioned the Kanye West of the world and all them, I don't know if this is a PG podcast or not.
No, you can speak it absolutely freely.
But fuck them. I mean, that's really my attitude with those guys. And if my kids are listening, beep that over. But that's really the attitude. We shouldn't react to every time someone like Kanye West, who's obviously out of his mind, starts going after Jews. I don't agree he shouldn't have a Twitter account. I don't care. I would have Twitter be an open platform. Anyone could be. So
you agree that even I agree that there should be freedom of speech, but I feel like at some point, so
I think the point is incitement of violence. That's my number one thing. Or if you're attacking anybody, harassment or attacking somebody specifically. So if you're doxing somebody, which means for people who don't know, putting out their phone number and address and home and calling people to go after them and attack them, okay, that should be a red line, because that's going to trigger violence. Calling for violence specifically, it should be taken out. And then on the lies stuff, I actually think Elon and X has figured it out with the community notes. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. But just banning someone outright, I don't know. It's not that it's a slippery slope, because I'm not a fan of slippery slope arguments, but it's an impossible task. Who's the arbiter, right? So that's where it becomes difficult.
Yeah, I mean, and then you even see back when the Biden administration was over there, how they would call and harass Meta to take down certain things, or push and post certain political, I don't know, whatever content was going out there on certain platforms, so that nobody else really had a voice. They could silence whoever. Sometimes I think that what Elon's doing is good, because it's just let people talk, and then like what you said, if it gets out of it's uncontrollable, then stop it. But I don't get I haven't really studied it too much, but why is a guy like Kanye, who's already worth $1 billion or whatever he's worth, what is it against Jews for him that he just can't go a day without mentioning it? He feels like he's attacked when he's already I don't get it.
Yeah, so first of all, with Kanye, I just think the guy's out of his mind. And I think that if you pay attention to him at all, you see all the psychosis and different issues the guy has. So he's targeting the Jews, great. I also got yelled at by some drunk homeless guy in Washington, D.C. for wearing a kippah. And before turning around to answer him the way I know how to answer somebody, I realized this guy's just like a wackadoodle on the street. He's just, you know what I'm saying? It's not like someone who actually has something against me. It's just something against the world. So I just kind of walked away. But the broader question, it's the biggest question in history when it comes to discrimination and hate. Why do people hate Jews? And there's lots of theories on it. I have some of my own, but no one really knows. Right? I think generally, just to answer, because I don't want to skirt the question, generally the Jewish community is successful. Right? Even though the cards are stacked against us in every place that we've ever lived, in every society, we find a way to find success. If we can't work in one industry, we work in a different industry. We kind of mold ourselves to the opportunities. We're very community driven. We have our own traditions, our own set of values, and our own little things that we do that make us just different enough to be the other, but close enough to still be successful. And if you look at any time there's been an explosion of antisemitism in any country, in any era of time, a few things are always present. There's always economic unrest, and there's always political unrest. So when things are bad politically and things are bad economically, what do? You look for a scapegoat. Who can you blame?
And point the finger.
So you turn, let's find a group that's successful, that looks like us. It's not a conscious discussion that they're having, right? But subconsciously, and so often they turn to the Jews. And that's the story of our lives, but it doesn't define us as Jews. That's the most important part.
And the one thing I'll say too is I feel like the work ethic is the same. The way I was raised, and everybody that I know down here, like you said, if they are Jewish, they're massively successful. What is it? What do you think that is? Is it because you you feel like the cards are stacked against you? It's something to prove and a family thing, or do you think it was more so how you were raised individually?
So I mean, I can speak to myself and then broadly. I mean, the way I was raised, my father came here with a doctor's degree, a medical degree from Argentina, didn't speak English, didn't have any money, took the exam to validate his medical degree, and built himself an incredible practice, worked and still works, 5 days a week, doesn't take days off, doesn't like taking vacations. He's got to work. My mom, the same thing. She worked, raised us, went back and forth in and out of working, went back to school to become a lawyer. In my family, the values is always, and it's very common in the Jewish community, it's education and work. Yeah. You've got to do both of those things. And then also I think there's a big element of being part of a community where you have community accountability, not just on things you do in your life. Like if you go out during the week and you're lying, cheating, and stealing, and then you're part of your community, you need to come back and face everybody on Friday and Saturday and the Sabbath. So there's something to that, but there's also the positive side of it, right? You're part of a community where everybody has a spouse and kids and everyone's living their life. Not everyone, of course, but as a whole, as a community, you're doing good things. It inspires you to do more.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. And I think I have a couple questions regarding like one of your biggest accomplishments being mayor, and like what is something that you're striving to achieve this year as well, personally and business.
So business-wise, this year is a big year for me because I was doing commercial litigation for 16 years, give or take, if I got my math right.
Yep.
Then I got offered, I got out of nowhere, I got pulled out of that world. I was litigating cases all over the country. I got offered to move over into government affairs consulting, so it's lobbying and helping companies deal with any issues they have with government. And I took the leap. I had just turned 40. I said, let's make a change. And I was at a firm for 3.5 years, lots of friends, great place. I was heading up the Republican side of their firm because in politics, everything's divided like that. January 1st, I opened my own shop, Groisman LLC, so just kind of doing my own venture. Sort of was that time of my life to really just go out on my own. Nothing against the guys I was with, they're all still good friends. I don't burn bridges with anybody. There's no reason to either.
Yep.
And just doing my own thing. So right now it's all about building. It's about taking my 20-something years of being a professional in different capacities, doing different things, and offering specific services to clients and picking the right clients to build a team to achieve what I want at this point in my life. And it's really exciting because you kind of have a startup feel, but you have 20 years of experience behind you. So it's that's on the professional side, really exciting time.
That's amazing, good for you. Yeah, well, I was gonna ask, like, did you have this idea to go into that on your own, or it sounds like you got dragged into it?
I've always worked in politics on the side. Politics was always sort of my side thing. First of all, I was always involved in politics and government because I always enjoyed it, whether it was on pro-Israel stuff that I was interested in when I was very young, getting involved in that space, or just following politics very closely, writing about it, speaking about it. And then because of that, getting involved with certain campaigns and helping on different things. But it was always sort of a side hustle.
Yeah.
I say side hustle, I wasn't getting paid for it, so it's probably not the right use of the term. But then as a lawyer, I did get hired on various occasions to deal with different issues with the federal government. I worked on a pardon for somebody, it's confidential who it was or whatever, but I worked on that. That was before I went into that space. So I was always involved, which is why I got offered to get pulled into that.
Okay.
And I sort of said, what if I make this, which is my passion, something I'm very into always, let's make it the front and center, the way I can also make a living. And it's been an amazing journey, and it's fun to switch or pivot careers midway.
Yeah, because you're only 3 months in now, 4 months in.
Yeah.
So what is like the day to day, and who are clients, like just like government, like municipalities around the country, or is it maybe like? It's
mostly private sector. So it's companies that sell to government, for example.
Okay.
Companies that are looking to break into the federal government, different opportunities in construction, in technology, in energy.
Got it.
That sort of thing. I do work with some municipalities, one in particular actually right now, on helping them on some policy issues with the state. So, every matter is entirely different, which is the fun part.
Yeah.
And it's about problem solving also. It's helping them navigate government, figure out the legal aspects of it, help make the introductions to the right people, help them close deals, and then help them expand once they're in.
Is that like, do you think that's a longer cycle of like from start date to completion than doing like the commercial intellectual property litigation?
It's very different. It's a nice way of thinking of it. Commercial litigation, like the big complex cases, you're going to have them for 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I was going to say
on the matter. This kind of client, you can have them forever, right? If you become their government, if it's someone who sells, it's not like you're going after one sale, right? Or you have one issue. Sometimes, right? Last year I helped two companies that were going through congressional investigations. So when those investigations closed, I was done, right?
Yeah.
But they'll have another issue and another issue. But usually there are companies that deal or engage with government a lot. And when it's not one opportunity, it's one problem, and you become part of their team. That's really the strategy.
Problem and solution. You were just in DC, last week?
Last week was in the White House. It was pretty cool.
First time in the White House?
No, not first time. First time in this administration in the White House.
Okay.
The coolest thing I'll share before you ask is you walk out of the West Wing, and the first car parked is the Tesla that Trump bought, the red.
Oh yeah, the red one.
Plaid S sitting there, and then in the phone holder, when you peek inside, is a big presidential coin.
That's
just
amazing.
sitting there. Yeah, it's just the first car.
Was Trump around when you were there?
He was there, but I didn't see him.
Oh my God.
I went there to meet with Steph.
I need to go just to see it. I feel like it's too historic not to. How is like the size and the feel and like the architecture of actually being in the White House and like the process of going through security? Because I'm like a little nerd with that online. Like I love all the secret motorcade and the weight of the car and the president's blood's in the back and all this stuff.
When you're going in for an appointment, it's not as complicated. It's if someone has to invite you for the appointment from inside, they send you a link. You fill out a form. There's a special entrance for pedestrians that have appointments. You have to give your ID. They run you through their system. It's like going to the airport. And they give you a pass and you walk in, and that's about it. Once you're in, from the outside it's spectacular. From the inside, it's watch the show The West Wing, and it's the
show. That's what it's called.
No, there's a show called West Wing about the West Wing. It's a traditional government office building, but the excitement in the office is what stood out to me. I mean, just the excitement of the staff and the energy, and people were really getting things
fired up in there.
And it's packed. I mean, it's packed. There's so many people, so much going on.
Crazy. Yeah, I want to go. I want to go really bad. Let's pivot for a second. For the younger generation that is trying to either go into law, or they want to go into real estate, or they want to talk like you do, but they feel like I don't have the voice yet. I'm young. No one's going to listen to me. Like, he's 40 plus years old. He's been doing it forever. Of course, they'll listen to him. I think a lot of people forget we all start somewhere. Like, when did you start taking that stance and speaking out? Like, you've spoken internationally, you've won awards, you're recognized all over the world for it. What's your advice to that younger generation, and like, how can you get there? And
yeah, so the first thing is, and I said this to Sam, who's here with me today, last week, which is the first thing is you can't just go to the office and come home. There's more hours in the day, so you have to be involved in the community. That's the first. I
like that. Yeah.
You can't just be a worker bee and go home and go to the gym and you think you survived and you did well. Like, you have to go out and do good and be part of your community as well. And there's a lot more to that. So first, don't pick something that you want to get involved in because you think it's good for networking. That never works. Okay? In my opinion, networking groups don't work, because if you're there to network, you're not going to network. Instead, pick something you really care about, and then become the leader of that group. Become the chair or the president of the board, because nobody remembers the board members. They remember who the chair was. Okay, so you become the chair. It's a piece of advice I got from my first boss, which led me to being chair of a lot of groups because of that advice. But if you're there and you're caring about the issue that you're there for, and I can't tell you what you care about, right? Everybody has their own things that they care about. And you are involved and you're out there and you're vocal and you take leadership positions, you're going to start building yourself and your brand. And the last 2 points I'll say is you have to be authentic. If you're trying to be someone that you're not, you're going to fail.
Yeah, never.
By the way, to tie back to politics for a second, we were talking last week with some friends about the next presidential election. The Republican primary is going to be interesting because there's going to be a lot of people that want to be Trump. And only Trump can be Trump, right? So the reason why Trump is, one of the reasons he's successful in his campaigning is he's authentic to, right? That's who he is. Yeah. Like him or not, that's who he is. But that's also just true in all types of leadership. So you have to be yourself. Don't try to, if you don't like public speaking and you want to write, then write. If you just want to be a doer, then just do, right? But be authentic to who you are. And the last thing, and this is really important for the younger guys, is be consistent. Because anybody could do one good thing once, right? But if you ask anybody about me, about the things that I stand for, that I'm involved in, they'll all tell you the same thing. By the way, either negatively or positively, but it's the same thing, which is
he's
been doing that forever. Right?
What is forever? Like how many years would you say that you've been like out there with your stance?
Since I'm 25 or so.
25.
Yeah, right when I started working.
And now, do you feel like you were heard right away?
No, of course not.
How long did it take? Because I always say consistency over intensity. You can go do you can go work out for 3 hours one day a week, or you can go work out 45 minutes a day every day for 6 days a week. That's what I always say. But like, how long do you think it took for you to like actually catch rhythm with being heard and with work? I feel like those are two good questions.
Yeah, so it takes time is the answer.
Yeah.
You have to also be humble and know your spot in life, right? When you're 22 years old, not everyone's going to roll out a red carpet to listen to what you have to say. But I think you have to lean into it. That has to do with being authentic, right? You're the young guy with new ideas that wants to say something, but still be respectful and listen. And if you can do both of those things with time, people will start listening to your opinion on things. And you just you have to be consistent. How long did it take? Even when I was a mayor, people would always say he's a young mayor. This a young guy with these ideas. It's the same when I was trying cases. I went to a hearing, I'll never forget, in Broward County once in federal court, and this senior lawyer was on the other side, and
older guy?
Yeah, and he starts talking trash to me before going into the hearing. This happens, believe it or not, saying, "Oh, young gun, I've been doing this longer than you've been, whatever." And I said, "Okay, just wait for the results, buddy." And I walked in and I kicked his tail in the hearing, and that's it. I just smiled and walked out. It takes time to earn people's respect, right? And even now, I'm 44, and it's a kind of an amazing age because you can hang with younger people and with older people, and you're sort of right there in the middle, kind of in a nice sweet spot.
So young.
You're still young enough that whatever, and the old guys still already respect you. There's an old saying: "Don't respect anyone. Don't listen to anyone says until they turn 40." I don't agree with that at all, but that's like an old school, the way the old timers think about things. So you're kind of in that spot. But the idea is there's no magic moment is the answer.
It just takes time, and you got to be consistent. And like you said, if you try and be someone you're not, you're going to fizzle out. It won't last. If you're not, like for me, I'm obsessed with just like getting my message out there. I'm a real estate agent. I also coach real estate agents. So it's very fulfilling to know that if I teach somebody like how to, grow their social media or cold call or sell or scale their business, when they come back to me and they said they did it, I couldn't do the workload that I do and do it as frequently as I do it if I wasn't passionate about it. So I think that definitely helps. Going back, I had a question because I've always been curious about it. Like, what is like the day in the life of a mayor? And like, what do you have control over? And if something is like bigger than your municipality that you want to speak on, how do you go about something like that? Do you have to like get the county? Is it statewide? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so first of all, I finished being mayor 2 years ago, but what I'll tell you is it's chaotic when you're mayor, because everyone says it's easy to do it and to work, unless there's a building falling down or there's a hurricane or there's an incident, or right when shit hits the fan, you got to drop everything and go put on your mayor's hat and deal with that. So it's a lot of back and forth. It's a lot of management is the truth. If you want to be a good mayor, there's 3 sides to being a mayor. One is managing your actual city. You have a city manager, city attorney, a chief of police, a clerk, an attorney that all are under you.
Yep.
You have to work with in a way where you're not in their ear all day, right? You can't micromanage them. It's not even your role, but you have to make sure they're running in the right direction. You have to tell them which direction to run. They have to figure out how to get there.
Yep.
So you have to keep enough of tabs on it so you're, keeping up with your obligations to your residents, but also give them enough room to do it, because that's not your job. So you have that. Then you have your city council and dealing with the city council and getting laws passed and ordinances passed and dealing with issues. The third part is dealing with residents. And I guess then there's the fourth part, which is what you asked about, which is things that are broader than what you have. And it's funny that you asked that. That's the best part of being a mayor in South Florida, I'll tell you. Because Miami-Dade County in particular, it's 34 municipalities. People don't realize that. So there's a lot of mayors.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So usually it creates chaos. Everyone's doing something different. For me, it was an opportunity. Like when COVID hit, I made a coalition of 16 mayors. We met every Monday by phone with our city managers to try to decide what we're all going to be doing together. Because these like city lines, which nobody even knows exist, when one city ends and the other one begins, right? We should have some consistency.
Right.
So you have all these opportunities, and then just using the office, the title, utilizing that to do things that you care about, and that I was able to use that title to go everywhere and do things. I spoke in the Italian Parliament, in the Israeli Knesset, in the United Nations, on all these different things, and not all mayors get to do that, but I was able to marry the passions that I had and use the position I had together to be able to do these things. So,
do you think that, because Florida was the one state that was kind of like, we were wide open.
Not in the beginning though. So in the beginning, like everybody else, March 15th or whatever date that was,
Yeah.
I think it was March 15th.
The day of hell.
Yes. But in the beginning, it was all counties and cities. It was local.
Everything.
So we shut down, and then every city was a little bit different in their rules, and the county was different. A few months later, if I'm not mistaken, it was in August or July, the governor, DeSantis, who I'm very close with, reached out to everybody and said, I'm taking it away from you. I'm passing an executive order that the municipalities can't pass COVID regulations, that it's going to be the state for consistency reasons. And that kind of took the heat off of us a little bit.
So you were happy, you weren't mad about that, like that you
know,
lost a little.
It was hard to understand. People don't realize it's so easy to criticize COVID policies. By the way, after 6 months, it becomes very fair to criticize it. But the first few months, everybody was drinking out of a fire hose, like trying to understand all this stuff. Nobody really knew what was happening.
Yeah.
Once we understood what was happening and what was reasonable to do, right, and how this thing actually spreads and doesn't spread, and then we opened up. But even when we were closed, like in Bal Harbour, we kept the beach open. Even when the county shut down the beach, we negotiated to keep our beach path open so people can walk. So we wanted to make sure people can get out. We didn't arrest anybody or put tickets. We did the opposite. We did positive messaging.
Yeah,
to our
just be
residents
careful.
saying, be careful. Be a nice neighbor. Some people are sensitive. Just that kind of messaging, which worked much better than sending out the police to arrest people for mask violations.
Was the mall and everything was open too, right, or no?
So the mall, we kept the restaurants open because they were outside. The stores were closed. They didn't even want to be open, by the way, but they, because no one was coming in to shop. But the restaurants stayed open because they were outdoors, and even Hillstone's upstairs, Houston's, we made a deal with them that as long as they leave all their massive windows open, we'll consider them outdoors so they can stay open.
Yeah, because when I came, it was December of 2020.
Oh,
everything
we were totally
was
open already.
Yeah, everything was normal by then.
Totally
and then I think New York was still like being crazy a little bit.
Yeah, for the whole year. Yeah,
that
whole school year.
I think there was like 2 other countries that were open like internationally, but everything else it was just like Florida. California was always a little finicky with it well.
But California was shut down for almost 2 years, but they would all come vacation here.
Yeah, of course, everybody does.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're still number 1 in population growth in the country, or number 2. I think it's Florida and Texas. It's absolutely crazy the growth that Florida's seen over the last few years, and then you have projects like Rivage that $4,000 a foot is the starting asking price. I think Bal Harbour, I don't know why, for me it's sentimental. It's because my great grandmother growing up, like when we used to travel here, this is her favorite place in the world to go.
Yeah.
So I've always had a thing for Bal Harbour. And
you're a real estate guy, so I'll interject. The Rivage is a cool project, and it tells you a lot about that neighborhood. It's a related group project.
Yep.
On the beach next to the two buildings over from the Ritz-Carlton on the north side of Bal Harbour. What's interesting about that project, and I don't work with related group, I'd love to, but I don't.
Soon.
Is that if you look at the units they built or they're building, they're family units. They're all big units. They're all big apartments, because that's the difference. What makes Bal Harbour different than the other nice areas in South Florida is Bal Harbour is one of the nicest municipalities. I think it's the nicest, but It is definitely the nicest municipalities for families. You can go to like Star Island and these places, but you're not going to raise a family there.
Yeah, I think it's too, for me, going south of like Surfside, the traffic is too much. I think a lot of the great restaurants and places to go are in Bal Harbour, Sunny Isles. If I can go to Avra, Hillstone, Carpaccio, and maybe Makoto, obviously Coleman, then I'm happy. And there's not a lot of like terrible traffic between there. I don't know what your thoughts are on it.
And there's terrible traffic everywhere, but
Yeah.
there are ways to fix it, and there are companies that are with AI technology. I worked with one of them to put AI on traffic lights instead of just timers. That can change the game. So there are things, there's technology coming that can help on this stuff. But Miami-Dade in particular is doing this, which is exciting.
Yeah.
But it needs to lean into this type of technology because the amount of the population growth down here has been tremendous. And now with all the Live Local stuff, we're gonna have more and more buildings coming up all over South Florida, all over the state. We have to get the technology piece right and get the public transportation piece right, which is something else that we all need to work on.
AI is absolutely insane with what's going on and how many companies are. I think Morgan Stanley or some big company is going to lay off like 2,000 people to replace it with AI. You just said something about population growth in real estate. What city are you next bullish on in South Florida?
I mean, as far as you're talking about real estate investing or people to move
Yeah,
to?
like if 4 years ago, if you bought something in the Village or if you bought something in Golden Beach, a lot of luxury real estate exploded over the last few years, but like it was insane, those two pockets in particular. A lot of people say like North Bay Village has a good shot of going crazy. I think the single family market, luxury specifically, is going to boom. I think the condo market's contracting and has been a little bit since the condo reserves and all these requirements and HOAs and interest rates going up. Like some people's mortgages are, or some people's HOAs are more than their mortgage.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious on what your thoughts are.
Yeah, so look, I live in South Florida, so I've got lots of opinions on real estate, but I'm not a real estate like professional, I guess, like you. But what I can say is I'd keep an eye out on North Beach.
Okay.
The north part of Miami Beach, around the park there. That's been an area that's been bought up by developers for a long time already. They finally got rezoning in the last couple of years. We're going to see a lot of changes there. We also have a lot of, believe it or not, this is very South Florida. There's a lot of like Section 8 type housing in that area. But now,
Really?
yeah, but they need to flip those properties. And I think those, you're talking about like in the low 70s off the beach. You know, that area is so east of North Bay Village.
Yeah.
That whole area is going to explode with time. Is it all going to be super luxury? Probably not, but that's going to be the next big area.
Has a long runway.
Florida. But also going west, everything west keeps exploding. Everything north keeps exploding. So if you speak to people in Broward County, for example, young people and old people alike, they're moving up the coast. Lots of people are moving up the coast, especially now you could work remotely or just have different satellite offices. So you're seeing people move up the coast into these small towns in North Florida that kind of feel like Dania Beach, where we are now.
Yeah.
They're just sort of a little bit quieter, a little bit smaller. You still have that Florida feel. It still exists, just maybe an hour north.
Yeah. I don't know where I would be if it wasn't South Florida, honestly. Do you ever see yourself leaving? No.
Even leaving South Florida to anywhere else in the U.S.? No.
No, absolutely not. I'm going to a political question now with the recent. There was two things. Trump said they were going to release the files for JFK. That got released, but something else that didn't. I can't remember what it was.
The Epstein files?
Oh, the Epstein files. Do you think those will ever get released, the Epstein files? I feel like it would affect the current government.
You know what? I don't know. I'm not big in the conspiracy theory world. I think they will release them. I think who knows why they're not releasing them yet. There's a million theories out there.
Yeah.
But what's funny is like the JFK files.
Yeah, I was going to ask what are your thoughts on that.
I haven't dug into them myself, nor will I likely, but I'll probably play with them on ChatGPT
Yeah,
at some
literally.
point. But from what I've seen already, like big surprise, there was no surprise, right? There was no big surprise in it at all. It looks like everything else was just a conspiracy theory.
Literally,
I think from what I've been reading today, actually this morning in the papers, the conclusion of why they didn't want to release it wasn't because there was some conspiracy theory, but because there were lots of CIA secrets that were tangential to it, of like offices the CIA had in different countries and different assets that they had that were intertwined, and documents that were released before, and those parts were redacted, so everybody thought, okay, they actually were hiding who killed JFK, but it turns out no, they were just trying to hide who the CIA operatives were. I know lots of people don't like those answers. They like the exciting conspiracy theories.
Yeah, my buddy's a huge conspiracy theorist, like very, very much.
I like conspiracy theories as someone to have a whiskey with because they're fun.
Yeah.
But a lot of
What whiskey?
What whiskey?
Yeah.
I'm all over the place. I'll drink anything.
I'm really stuck on Woodford, and then what's your dad have me drinking? The Old Par? Old Par, that's good. And then what about, is Maker's Mark good? I've never had.
Nah, it's okay.
What's your go-to? Like if you could pick.
Honestly, I'm a simple guy. I get Basil Hayden. It's a middle market, delicious, sort of almost sweet whiskey.
Okay, I'm gonna have to give that a go.
Yeah, it's amazing.
With I think I asked like the majority of my questions. I don't know if you have anything that you want to share to conclude, any positive messages, any messages of motivation, or anything for the community. But I'll leave it to you if you want to say anything else.
Sure. No, I'll share with you sort of what I said to you earlier off camera before we started, because I think right now we live in a time when everyone's trying to make something happen, which I think is amazing. But the parts that are missing so many times, is work ethic. Right? People think that they can shake a tree and millions of dollars are going to fall out, but no, it actually takes a lot of time and a lot of work and a lot of mistakes and lots of ups and downs. So you have to actually put in that work. But the most important part, which I spoke about earlier as well, is to really be authentic. So you got to understand who you are first, have real values. It's critical for me in my personal life to be connected to, for me, my religion, my people, what I am, but everybody has that, right? Find that for what that is for you and make that ground you. Because if you're just out there doing all those things with no grounding and no purpose, you're going to burn out, is the reality. Not only your life won't have any meaning, but you'll burn out. And you have to really understand the why, not just the what. And that really helps you understand the why I'm out there doing things. It's not just for, quote, the hustle and all the things you hear about. Like, that's great. You hustle for what? And for me, it's for my family, for my community, right? To be able to make positive impacts, give charity. It's this big thing. In the Jewish tradition, you give 10%. It's like tithing in the Christian tradition, but we give it not to the church or to the synagogue. We give it out to charity. And if you read what's written about that, it's very impactful to me, which is, nobody gets poor from giving money away. Right? That's first. So people are always worried, if I give, I'm not going to have enough for this. It's nonsense. You'll always have enough. No one gets poor from giving charity. And the fastest way to wealth is to give away, to give charity. And if you think about that, you can think about it religiously or practically speaking, right? Just living a life where you're giving and you're contributing. People are going to give back to you. Yeah. Maybe it's not charity, but it'll be a business opportunity, right? Like, you have to be out there in your community. You got to do things. So first, find yourself, find your authentic self, and then put in the work and be consistent and do it. And make sure you're doing it for a good reason. Find your why. Yeah. Find your why. I appreciate that. Where can people find you? They're your Instagram and your website. Gabe Groisman, GabeGroisman. You can find me on every social media platform. GroismanLLC.com. GroismanLLC.com. And or just call you and you connect. Yeah, 100%. Guys, thank you so much, Gabriel. I appreciate you coming. Thank you for being here. It means a lot. Thank you.